I'm back with episode 11 of the Sip2Tally Podcast. Here with a good friend of mine, Jeff Martin from XOS Sports. How you doing today, Jeff?
Good, man. Thanks for coming.
And for we've been friends for a long time. I think Jeff is the longest Floridian I've known, because even though I knew my wife in high school, we were from Mississippi. So me and Jeff and I have been pretty much communicating in some way, shape, or form since probably 07, 08 maybe, somewhere up in there.
Yeah.
And how'd you get started with the? Well, first of all, let's talk about your coaching situation here in Tallahassee. How'd you start coaching?
Well, I started in 1992 at Immokalee High School down in Southwest Florida. Coached there for 4 years and had the privilege of having Edrin James. On the team, so that kind of ruins you as a coach, having something like that your first 4 years. Then I moved to Daytona, coached there for 8 years, lucky enough to win a state championship at Mainland High School in 03, and then had the chance to come back to Tallahassee to coach at my alma mater. I was the defensive coordinator at Leon for 3 years, and then went to Lincoln, and then ended up my career at Godby.
Okay. At Mainland, were you there when Vince Carter was there?
Nope. He was around when I was in the Daytona area.
Okay.
And when I was coaching at Mainland, he would come to games, but he wouldn't come to watch football.
He come for the girls.
No, he came. He was the drum major for the band. So he would come and watch the band, and then he would leave.
Okay.
So
sound like a SWAT game.
Yes.
And coaching Edrin James, how was that?
It was great. I mean, at a small town, we were a 3A school, so you had to coach varsity and JV. So I was the defensive coordinator on the JV. Well, he was on my JV team his freshman year. You knew as soon as he walked on the field the first time that kid was special. And he played, I think we had 6 ball games. He may have had 1,600 yards rushing. And, his next year, his sophomore year, we had 2 other great backs. So we ran kind of a wing T version. Well, he was our starting fullback and our starting safety is his sophomore year. And then his junior year, we went to the I, of course, with him. You had to go to the I. And he was our starting tailback and Sam linebacker. And what I tell people all the time is there was one game against Riverdale High School where he had 300-plus yards rushing, 6 touchdowns, had 15-plus tackles on defense, kicked every extra point, every kickoff, and had a 35-yard field goal.
Wow.
Yeah, he was special.
Tremendous athlete.
Yes.
And how'd you get into the business of doing cut-ups, especially when, like I said, when we first met, because I was sending them directly to you via VHS.
Yes. Yeah. Well, and when my son was born in 1999, I was coaching in Daytona. And, as you know, coaches and teachers don't make much money in Florida.
At all. You're right.
And he was my second child, and it was cheaper to have my wife stay home. She was a park ranger for the state and keep the kids than it was to put 2 in daycare. So I had a buddy of mine that ran High Tech Video Georgia and Florida. And so I started doing High Tech Video Alabama, Mississippi, and Louisiana, and just started my own company because back then there was none of this early recruiting. They didn't want the junior film cut-ups until signing day of the seniors.
Right.
So we could coach and do all of our cut-ups and get them going and everything. So I just started doing that, and it just festered on from there. Did
at that time, were you able to get the bulk of your work done when the season was over with between that Christmas break?
Yeah, well, I would do a lot of it during Christmas break, the top kids, and then I would just keep going. And, of course, back then, we were still sending out VHS tapes.
Right.
And then we slowly moved into DVDs and things like that. But, it was a very big, cumbersome thing to send out, put the labels on the tapes and because we used to have to cut it up, put the arrow on it, and then go back because we'd put black screen between the players, and we'd have to go back and get on PowerPoint and run a title screen and put it on there, and I'd have to go back and put that in. So, yeah, it's come a long way since then.
Yeah, I remember getting the first package from you. I think it was a box of about probably 20 VHS tapes, labeled already with you guys' logo and the games that we were supposed to see and whatnot. And I took it as an opportunity to get exposure for my kids. So that's why I jumped all in with it and pretty much gave you whatever you asked for. I remember recording those state championship games.
Yes.
And sending them over. So, that was fun for me. I felt like it was something that would benefit our kids and Nedges at the time. Yeah. And I guess you've just grown from there.
Yeah.
As far as what did you love the most about coaching?
I love being around the kids. I really like the game planning of it all. tickled you pink when you'd stop a high-powered offense and things like that. Like my last year at Lincoln, when we went to the state championship game, Fort Walton Beach was averaging so many points, so many yards on offense, and we shut them. We came up with a new scheme and ran it against them because they ran that Tony Franklin system, and it was great just scheming it and then watching them execute and shut it down, and we beat the heck out of them. And then what was even better was a couple of years later, Mark Wilson, who was our Sam linebacker at Lincoln, who went to play at Troy. Where Tony Franklin coached, and Troy ended up playing against Tony after he left, and they ran the same type of defense that we had run. Okay. And with the same little nuances that we did, and he called me up saying, "Man, you wouldn't believe it, Coach." So it's always
Mark called you up?
Oh yeah, Mark called me up and told me about it. So it was that was the thing that I really enjoyed about coaching.
Okay. And what about your biggest victory, being a part of as a coach?
The Mainland State Championship. Okay. I mean, that was, we were number 2 in the state, and Miami Edison was number 1, and Chaminade Madonna came up and beat us to death that last week of the season. I mean, they had some Power 5 tight ends, big boys and stuff, and they really pounded us, and it really got us going for the playoffs. And to beat Naples in the state championship, because that's the same county Immokalee's from, so I grew up in Immokalee. I know Naples, and to shut down that split back veer was something special. Been better if it wasn't in Florida field, but
it is what it is.
Yeah.
Is Edgerrin James would you say probably the best player you've coached, or one of the best players?
He's one of the best. Now, there's a kid that I had at Mainland that started for me at Atlantic as a freshman as safety, that started for me for a couple years, and then when I went on to go to Mainland, he ended up coming over his senior year, and his name was Keelan Johnson, and he ended up going from a mediocre team to winning the state championship, being all-state first team, and signing with Georgia. And then he was a Georgia captain and started at Georgia for 2 years. And I get a phone call, every couple months. "Hey, Coach, just want to tell you I love you." He was just a great athlete and a great kid all around.
Yeah, those calls and letters and text messages and things like that, what makes us not getting paid much, makes it all worth it. Because I got a message maybe a year after I left Natchez from a kid that telling me how much I pushed him, how much I felt like a father figure toward him, and it almost broke me down. But I know I just stayed on his case. Yep. I made sure he studied. I talked to some girls to help him study, and just because I knew that's what would keep his attention. Right. And he ended up, he got out of Natchez with a decent GPA, graduated, had an opportunity to play some college football, played I think a year JUCO, but he ended up phasing out after that because we were a spread. They ran the wing T in JUCO he went to. Yeah. So he kind of phased out after that. What'd you hate about coaching?
By the end of the career, it was more of the administration, being political and things like that, underhanded stuff, things like that really drove me to where it wasn't fun anymore. Right. And the teaching part, I was a phys ed major. I hadn't taught phys ed since I was at Pine Ridge in 1997. I was in special ed at Godby, and I had left Leon because I was special ed to go to Lincoln, where I was the DCT coordinator, which was the best job that I ever had. But by the end of it, it was, I never had problems with parents or anything. It just the administration of the back door and stabbing you in the back and things like that really drove me off.
Because I don't want to feel like I put you on the spot with that, so I'm going to answer that question myself. And I really hate anybody that shows they're not for the kids. Right. Anybody that's a me or I person, I mean, if you're coaching, your time, or if you're principal, your time is pretty much over with. Every decision you make needs to be for the kids. And when I see that out of people, that's kind of what pulls me away from them. And that's kind of what I hate about the business. But, I'm in it for the kids because I took a huge pay cut to come down here. Yes. But, so it's a kid thing, and, and I got 1,000 sons, basically. I treat them all as just like mine. So anybody that I feel like doing them wrong or don't have their best interests in mind, that's what I hate about the kid.
Well, I mean, by the end of my career, I had more fun coaching girls flag football than I did, the boys. Because the girls, they listen. They're not all thinking they're 5 stars and things like that. And it was, I was lucky enough to win a state championship at Leon, and I turned around Godby to where my old quarterback at Leon's now the head coach and doing real well there and stuff. So by the end of it, I didn't even coach football my last year teaching. I resigned to be the head golf coach and head girls flag football.
And I think when I met you, you were doing flag football.
Yes.
Or you had just finished coaching. But what you just said about girls flag football is almost exactly what Coach Yeoman said.
Yeah.
He said the girls, they want the knowledge, want the information, and they hungry. Whereas boys come in, they've studied the game, they know the game. Well, they think they know the game.
Yeah.
And want to do that type of stuff.
Well, they also want to learn more about football because it gives them something more to talk to their daddies and boyfriends about. So they're soaking everything in. I mean, when I had film study after a game or something, they weren't falling asleep like the boys do.
Right.
You got to throw things at the boys to wake them up. Girls, man, they were all on it. And of course, this was way before huddle, so
right.
You never had to worry about them watching it off-site. But that they were fun to coach.
Okay. How'd you find your way to XOS?
That last year at Godby, I had called. XOS had purchased about 5 recruiting services across the country, and unfortunately, mine and my buddies wasn't one of them. But I called the guy who was running it, who was a friend of mine, and when my buddy with High Tech Video Florida had passed away suddenly, so I called him to talk to him about it, and he was talking how unsatisfied they were with who they had covering the Southeast, and if I would be interested. And I said, sure, I'd be interested. I had that bitter taste in my mouth about the football and coaching and stuff and teaching and everything. So, they said, come up with a number, and I gave them a number, and they gave it to me, and I turned my letter of resignation in the next week.
Hey, it's nothing sweeter than that when you want to be wanted, or you have that feel to be wanted.
Yes.
When they come looking for you. And I told a friend of mine that he was battling with whether to leave a job or not, and he got the phone call saying, hey, they want me to do XYZ. I said, well, you can pretty much write your own number when you do that. And he went up there and had a good time.
Well, that was the hardest decision of my life. I've coached for 20 years, taught for 20 years. You're vested 20 years in the Florida retirement system, and I was tenured. I was grandfathered in with tenure, and everything. So you never had to worry about your job, technically,
right?
And everything to take a big leap. And it was a major discussion with my wife because it was a big leap, and it's worked out,
right?
And see things the way that they're going right now with high school and football and stuff like that, and the teaching of what y'all got to do now. I'm really glad I'm out.
Hey, sometimes you have to take that blind leap of faith, man. Just let him lead you where you're supposed to be, and it looked like it worked out for you. I know I'm proud of what you're doing and the setup that you have, and I'm just looking to learn more about it myself. Let's talk about that prospect survey.
Yes.
I know you have a website where you want kids to kind of go and fill that out, but let's talk about that for a minute.
XOSprofile.com that gives you a chance to put in all your information, from academics to your home address to cell numbers to parents' names, your desired major, all that kind of stuff, so the colleges can see it. All of our stuff is locked behind a firewall that only the college coaches have access. So, I get kids all the time, how many stars do I have? Where's my profile page? We don't do any of that kind of stuff. Mm-hmm. It's only for the colleges.
Gotcha.
Because the colleges use us because we are unbiased. A coach is going to say his kid's a D1 kid. This kid's a Power 5 kid. This kid's a mid-major. We watch the kids. We evaluate them. We give them ratings of what level we think they can, and we're not biased. Mm-hmm. We don't care that they play at Lincoln or Godby or Leon or Rick. So we're an unbiased opinion about that. So as much information as they can give us, the better, because that's the way the colleges. Even if you don't give us your Twitter, we're going to go find it.
Right.
And, because the colleges want to see how you act. Mm-hmm. And they want to see, if you're putting stupid things on Twitter or Facebook or Snapchat or any of that kind of stuff. Because I mean, there's kids that lose scholarship offers all the time because of things they post on Twitter.
Yeah, I've heard that a lot. What how many colleges do you serve? That's a
right now about 200 plus.
And that's all levels.
That's all levels from D3. I was on the phone with a Division II school today from Michigan that got our Florida stuff and is wanting more.
Okay. So for any athletes out there listening, make sure you go to their website, fill out their survey, and that starts, not necessarily starts your recruiting process, but can help your recruiting process if you have the tape to go along with what you think you have.
And that's the thing is it's free exposure for you. You know, it's what I tell the kids all the time. I said, you may be a Division I player and you may have an offer or two. This just gives you more of an exposure all across the country, not just the Southeast or whatever. Right. I talked to a kid last Thursday in Troy that was a big offensive defensive lineman that was just there to watch his team play in 7-on-7. I've been asking him on Twitter for years for his home address, and there he was. Boom, I got it. And I said, I know you're committed to Troy, but I need to have that information just in case somebody wants, because there's teams that come in late.
Mm-hmm. Especially with the way recruiting is set up now, with that early signing period.
Oh, yeah.
You can, not be on somebody's radar, and then when they lose out on the guy, be there the next day.
Oh, yeah.
You can jump from number 5 to number 2 real quick on the recruiting board. You attend a bunch of camps during the summer, right?
Yes.
I think you just came back from one, this weekend. What do you think about kids that maybe a Division II or a mid-major player going to camps at bigger schools? Do you think they should really go to the camps where they have a legitimate shot of playing? The
last few years, I would say no. You're just contributing to the pot to give the GAs money. Mm-hmm. Now, I've seen a transition now with this early signing period where these kids can take official visits and stuff, that they're not necessarily coming to the camps anymore. So they're having prospect camps, like your South Alabamas, your Troys. Even Florida State had prospect camps where they're actually watching everybody. Now, in years past, it would be the Florida State staff or the Florida staff would invite kids to the camp, and that's who they would be with. Mm-hmm. And then everybody else that contributed to the pot would go with the other, to the GAs or the players that were coaching. Oh. Now it's changed a little bit with this early signing. And also, I went to the Mercer mega camp earlier in June, and there were 1,800 kids, and they had about 300 for each session. And there was about 30 to 40 college staffs there, not college coaches. 30 to 40 whole staffs. Mm-hmm. I mean, you had Harbaugh there from Michigan with 5 or 6 of his guys, but some of the mid-major guys, even Division II schools, had their whole staff there. Mm-hmm. And, I was talking to Jim Levitt from Oregon, and he's like, this is crazy. I can't do anything with this because it was only him and another guy. Right. You needed to have the whole staff there, and kids got offers from it. I mean, mid-major kids that didn't have any offers all of a sudden got mid-major Georgia Southern offers and stuff because their entire staff was there. Troy had coaches there. I mean, it was quite impressive. I mean, not a lot of time. It was about 2 hours per session, but with the whole staff there, they can concentrate on their positions and funnel through all that. So, it's amazing to find camps like that. Like Kennesaw State had one. Samford had one. Mercer had one. Those are the big boys here in the South that have them. I think those are very beneficial for the kids no matter what level, because all the levels are there. Right. But as far as a kid that's, a Division II kid that you think is a football coach, he doesn't need to be wasting his time going to a Florida State camp. Right. If he's a junior. Right. If he's a sophomore, there's still chance for him to get better and things like that, maybe to catch their eye on things. Mm-hmm. Like there was a kid last year at the Florida State camp that caught Florida State's eye from Louisiana, and they offered him, because of what he did during that camp. Then they ended up dropping him, halfway through last season, and I forget where he ended up going. Another Power 5 school, but nobody knew much about him, even though I had him in the system and had him rated pretty good.
Now, speaking of on that point you just made, I remember going to Mississippi State 7-on-7 a couple years ago, and we would have like Natchez or Louisville or Brandon, but there was always one team that was made up of this guy, and this guy, and they all played together. And those were the guys that they were looking at. And I kind of forgot about that until you said that. So it basically was a team count. Then you had this all-star team of 7-on-7 guys that most of them ended up going to Mississippi State. And I remember Chad Bumpers. You remember that name?
Yep.
Chad Bumpers was on one of those teams, and we played them early, before they got a chance to jail or whatever. And we beat them pretty good. And we got a DB that's about 5'4", that kind of shut them down. And so, like, one of the last plays of the game, Chad Bumpers ran a corner route. But the quarterback threw it at the goalpost. He adjusted his corner route and went and caught the ball. How he did that, I don't know. But it was one of the most amazing things I've ever seen. And that thought made me remember how they used to put those kids to the side and watch them, and then go to, and watch other people. And when I went to Ole Miss that same year, we was doing Team 7-on-7. They were interested in Rico Richardson. And they had their receiver coach follow us around to every station.
Oh, yeah.
Every game we had, that guy was right there.
Yep.
Every game, he probably should have gotten a scholarship off of there, and because it happened to Southern Miss the same year too. But they saw a few things that they necessarily didn't like. But he ended up, he was still probably the fastest kid in the state of Mississippi that runs with his entire foot touching the ground.
Right.
He don't run his toes.
Yeah.
But, I love that kid to death, and he went on to have a great career at Jackson State. Got a couple years in the league, so I think he played 4, maybe 5 years in the league.
Nice.
So it all worked out for him. Yeah. And we recently got a kid, I don't know if you know it or not, just got a Super Bowl ring from Natchez.
Really?
Justin Hamilton.
Really?
He played half the season with the Eagles. Nice. Got traded to Seattle maybe week 9 or whatever, and he got married the same day I went to the wedding back home, and he got him a Super Bowl ring. So, as far as I know, that's the first player that we have as a coaching staff in Natchez that got a Super Bowl ring.
Wow.
And that leads me to my next question. What do you think about these All-Star 7-on-7s?
As an ex-coach, I hate them.
Right.
As a scout, I love them to death. Because I can go to there was my first weekend back at the end of February where I was at IMG, the Southeast NFA 7-on-7 on Saturday. And then I drove to Homestead on Sunday and saw the Adidas East Coast Invitational. Well, in those 2 days, I saw at least 150 Division I players.
Wow.
So, for that purpose, it's great. But you see all this underhanded stuff that goes on with these things. I mean, there were 2 major fights this year. Both of them included a Tallahassee team in each one of them. One in Gainesville and one here in Tallahassee, the 7-on. So the major issue with the 7-on-7 All-Star stuff is there's not a governing body. Everybody says they're getting like AAU. No, they're nothing like AAU because AAU had guidelines and, procedures and things like this. Anybody, you and I could put together a 7-on-7 and put it out there, and we'd have teams come. Right. And we could run different rules or whatever. I mean, that one in Gainesville didn't even have referees. So wonder why we had a major fight in that one. But and that's the whole thing. When you got some associations like NFA that run the ones all over the country, and then have the nationals and IMG, they have set rules, and they have security there and things like that, because when you put 20 of the best South Miami kids in a game with 20 of the best Tampa teams, there could be some things going on. Right. And, a lot of pushing and shoving.
And I think it all comes out of competition.
Yeah.
But it just boils over sometimes.
Yeah.
But, cause I can remember myself, when I played football, the guy off the field, everybody probably loved, but the guy on the field, you wouldn't like him unless you was on your team. And that, because I wanted to win at all costs. And I can see myself, wanting to win so bad and doing everything I could to win within the rules of the game. And it may offend somebody. Right. I was more like that pester type person.
Well, the other big thing about 7-on-7 was when you take your team, Lincoln High School, to a 7-on-7, if it's Florida State or, some other association that runs a 7-on-7 as your team, you're going to run what you run. Right. You're going to run offense.
At least you should.
And your defense. Now, when you get to this all-star stuff, all of them play man 2 deep. And in a real football game, if the offense sees man too deep, they're going to run all verticals, and they're running the ball right down your throat.
Yep.
Because, I mean, and that's what – and they'll play with 7 DBs instead of having, you know, a couple of linebackers in like you would normally do, and they're bailing as soon as the ball's hyped. Right. Well, that's not doing anything for your reading and all that kind of stuff.
Exactly.
So,
and as a receiver coach, I used to love 7-on-7.
Yeah.
But because of some of those things you just mentioned, like you don't really have real linebackers. You know, they take your 2 backup safeties and put them there linebackers. The 2-man, which I think that's why the opening lets you have one running play to kind of negate that 2-man, because they could do the same thing. That guy could end up getting 30, 40 yards just off handing them the ball.
Oh, yeah.
But like I say, I loved it. But now I'm getting to the point where I dislike it, because I saw I don't know if they were doing 7-on-7, but there's a recruit from Nebraska, and it just went viral last week where he chokeslammed a kid.
Yes, I saw that it was at the Nebraska camp.
And I was thinking to myself, had that been me or one of my players, there's no way the rest of that camp would have went on. Mm-hmm. Because whoever that child was, his parents entrusted me to take him to Nebraska or wherever the camp was to be treated like that. Because that's not football. Right. Something would have been done. Either he'd have been out, or I'd have shut the camp down, or something. And God forbid it had been my child. Mm-hmm. It really would have got ugly. But that's the type of stuff that's burning me up from 7-on-7, especially when, like, if a receiver step back and slap a kid, or if the DB go choke somebody. That stuff don't happen in football. No. And then if you are gonna do that. If you're a 4-star, do it against another 4-star. Right. Don't do that against a guy that's never gonna play college football. Mm-hmm. Which, you know, I don't know that kid, but that's kind of what it looked like. I would like, if he did that against a dog, if he did that against a Frank Laston or whatever, okay, fine, so be it. But don't basically pick on somebody on your own side. Yeah. Where I'm going. As far as the XOS stuff, what if I'm a sophomore and I'm fairly decent, and I fill out your prospect roster? I mean, at the prospect form. What else do I need to do as an athlete to, you know, help my recruiting of myself?
Well, like I talked to some people last week, the big keys are, you got to make sure your grades are right. Mm-hmm. You got to get with your coach, get with your guidance counselor, and make sure do your core worksheet. Mm-hmm. Make sure you're taking the right core classes. It doesn't matter what your overall GPA, it matters what your core GPA is. Mm-hmm. And find out what you need to do to get that better, and make sure you're on the right path with that. Take the SAT and ACT early. Find out which one you're better at. Mm-hmm. If it's the ACT, just keep taking it, because like if you get a 18 on English and a 15 on math, the next time you take it, you get a 16 on your math. They'll take that with your highest English score and combine them. Super scoring. Mm-hmm. And you want to do that and get that stuff taken care of, and because you can. Sometimes people go, "Well, I'm underrated." Well, what are your grades? Right. You know, that's a big key to these colleges, is finding out. That's why all the Ivy Leagues use us, the service academies, because we find out, we get your GPAs, and that gives them a baseline to if they want to recruit you or not. Because if you got a 2.5 GPA, they're not recruiting you. Right.
I got a friend of mine that coaches at Texas Wesleyan, and he's been at a couple colleges so far. And the first thing he says when he goes into a school, he asks for the grades. Right. Because if the grade's not right, he's wasting his time with anything else. And that's one thing kids don't really understand. They think they can wait till halfway through their junior year and senior year to make the grades. But if you take care of that on the front, you don't have to worry about it on the back end.
Yeah, I mean, that everybody's worried about how many stars they have on Rivals and 24/7, and if they're underrated or if they're getting offers their sophomore year. You know, yeah, there are offers going out for sophomores, but none of it's official. Right. I mean, even for the juniors until this summer, none of these offers that they've accumulated, or until you get that official offer letter after you finish your junior year, that none of it's real anyway. So worry about getting your grades up. Worry about getting better with your team. Like right now, it's a dead period, you know, for the next couple of weeks. Be with your team. Make sure you're doing your summer workouts, getting faster, getting stronger, you know, putting on weight if you need to put on weight, you know, things like that. I mean, because even some of the big timers, they're not resting on their laurels right now. They're continuing to get better. I mean, I see Morales doing things, and he committed to North Carolina. Yeah. You know, there's certain things that he still needs to work on.
Most definitely.
And I've told them for a couple of years, this is what you need to work on, as a tight end. Yep. And so, and all your big timers are at the opening right now. They're finishing up right now in Dallas. It's a showcase, but they ain't going. They're trying to prove that they're the best out there.
Right.
So even if you're, just a little lowing sophomore, keep working hard, getting stronger, getting faster. Nobody can do anything about your height,
right?
But you can do everything about your weight, your speed, and your strength, and your grades,
and your heart.
And your heart.
Before we get out of here, I want to give you get your opinion on this. We talked about the camps a minute ago. So would you say mega camps over individual team camps? Or kind of do both if you're allowed to do so.
If you got the money, and it all breaks down to money.
Right.
If the mega camps aren't that expensive, but you do have to travel. Like the one at Mercer, you could have driven. There were kids from Tally up there, so you can go up for the day and come back. Now, ones at Kennesaw or Samford, you may have to turn it into a night trip, so you'd have hotel and stuff. So that kind of plays a factor in it. But I would do those, and then I would pick. Sit down with your coach. They're going to be real with you of what level they think you can play. Go to those camps. Like if your coach thinks you're a Division II kid, maybe a mid-major, go to the South Alabama prospect camp. Go to the Troy. Do that kind of stuff. Don't disrespect FAMU here in town either.
Right.
A lot of kids disrespect FAM and don't go there. I mean, it's with Willie there. It's going to change.
And when you brought up FAMU, and my wife has got season tickets the past 2 years, so I think I've missed one home game. I'm extremely excited to go to the games this year.
Right.
And even though I wasn't going for the band, just to see the fact that they have some local kids playing, which that I've coached against or seen or whatever. That is one thing that I'm excited about seeing. On top of the fact that I think he has a good plan, of, going in hand. And it's one of the things I thought the schools from where I'm from should do the same, like Alcorn. You should always have a kid from Natchez or a kid from Fayette on your team because that one kid or that one scholarship, it's gonna get you probably 100 people in the stands, especially if you're hurting for money.
Oh yeah,
because you're gonna get mom, dad, girlfriend, grandparents, cousins, and friends, and that you get all them to come. That's money in your pocket. So you should always keep local flavor, especially if you're a small school. I
mean, even when I was at Lincoln, we had a couple of kids sign at Norfolk. Just because FAMU did a poor job of recruiting kids in Tallahassee. I mean, we saw more Bethune-Cookman coaches through the springs and stuff than we saw FAMU. And, different staffs, because they've had 3 or 4 different staffs since I've been back in town, a couple of them have done a nice job and a couple of them haven't. And, I mean, it's a big key. I mean, I saw Coach Wood last year at a high school game or the year before, and, they did a decent job. But, when you got some local flavor with Willie here, who's from this area, they should do a good job of, keeping some of the homegrown talent instead of, why go play at a 1AA somewhere else when you can play at FAM right here in town
and get a ton of love. Because you'll get FAM love, and if you go over there and ball, you'll get some guys from Florida State. They might not get to play over there,
right?
But I think those guys kind of show love to each other, especially. Now I think I've seen someone working out together, and and individual workouts and whatnot. But can you give me your social media information so people can find that prospect form and kind of follow you on what you're doing?
My Twitter's Jeff_XOS. My pinned tweet has that profile thing on the top.
Right. And I'll retweet that again once I get out of here.
Yeah. And I mean, it's a matter of, if you're within, Tallahassee, you'll see me at games. Happy to announce we're back part of the Under Armour game.
Okay.
As of 2 weeks ago. So, we'll be doing, I won't be at as many Tallahassee games as I usually am because it's easy to go to Gene Cox Stadium.
Right.
But I'll at least see everybody at least once, but I'll be traveling around, in the SIP, there's like 5 to 9 kids that are committed to the Under Armour game. That's when I'm going Saturday to the varsity preps camp at Hines Community College so I can, see DeJuan Black and some of those N'Kobe Dean and some of those cats from the SIP.
Coach, that kid you just called Dean, he was at Horn Lake before I left.
Yep.
And we beat the crap out of them, but we could not block that kid.
No.
And I think he was a freshman.
Yeah.
Coach.
Yeah.
He run around like a running back at a linebacker and making almost every tackle. And he's tackling Colin Hill now.
Yeah.
So it's crazy to see him because I think he's grown 4 or 5 inches since I left too.
Yeah.
Because what he's sitting at about 6'1", 6'2", maybe.
Yeah, I think he's pushing 6'2".
Yeah, he wasn't that tall at the time. Now, he ran around, but he wasn't that tall.
Right.
Man. Don't I know this is people from Florida probably gonna listen to this, but don't sleep on the Sip. Now we got a lot of good ballers from over there.
Yeah.
And I think, and this is me being biased, I think probably your two best running backs gonna be from Mississippi in college this year.
What are your two best?
Cam and Kyler.
Yeah.
In college football. Now they may not be 1-2, but they may be 2 and 5 or 4 and 5, and because I'm gonna go to some Florida State games reluctantly, and just so I can see Cam. I support Cam, and I also support what Willie's doing over there too. Mm-hmm. That's pretty much it for this episode of Sip2Tally Podcast. Make sure you go follow Jeff, fill out that prospect survey form, get your grades up, get in the weight room, get on the track, get your game up because the tape don't lie. I appreciate everybody for listening. Another episode of Sip2Tally Podcast, and we out.